Alright everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this wireless charge cubby for your Hummer H2. As you can see, it looks nice and OEM. These are MagSafe chargers, AirPods, and now phone. The AirPods are charging, the ding went off, I just don't know why it didn't show up on the screen, but you can see the phone's charging. Doesn't slip out, and it looks about OEM. It's a great use for the Onstar pocket. Start, we're going to want to remove the old Onstar module, and there's two 4mm Allen key bolts to take the gear selector off. Now to lift out the center tray, I usually like to put my finger in the little square slot behind the gear selector, and you want to pull up from the front and then slide your fingers around the sides to lift up on the two back tabs. If the little metal tabs get stuck, don't worry, you can just use a pair of pliers to pull them out and bend them back to the right shape. Next, you're going to want to remove the 4 T15 Torx screws that hold in the center console. If you have the optional DVD player, you're also going to have to unplug the DVD player and the FM switch. They're pretty simple, they just have little squeeze tabs on them. Now inside the center console, you're going to have 4 10mm silver bolts, and you're going to have another one in the front by the gear selector. You're going to see these two 9/32 bolts under here that hold the center stack on. You're going to want to remove those, and then as soon as they're out, you can slide the center console back. You're going to want to remove the two 5mm Allen key bolts, and you should be able to pull the trim piece off. Now, you're going to want to unplug the 3 12-volt lighter outlets at the bottom of the panel. If your truck is factory, you will then be able to just remove the panel. I have an Android head unit, and I didn't really want to unplug it for this video, so I just unplugged the 12-volt lighters and then moved the Android head unit back enough that I can get the Onstar module out. Unplug the 12-volt lighter outlets, just squeeze the tabs on the back and pull straight out. Once the cigarette lighters have been unplugged, it's another 2 9/32 bolts to unbolt the Onstar module. Then you should be able to slide it right out and just remove all the plugs on the back of the module. Now to make the actual cubby, I bought a 99 to 2011 Metra double DIN to single DIN conversion dash kit, which is generic for all GM vehicles. This kit comes with the cubby and a bezel and these two side blades. It works really well because the Onstar module is about exactly the same size as a single DIN radio. So first I marked the center of the bezel on both sides. Then I measured 1 inch back on each side to remove exactly 2 inches. I grabbed my Dremel tool with an abrasive wheel to cut the tab off of the side of the bezel. Now I cut the markings that I made earlier, and you're going to want to be pretty precise with this, and it might take a few times of cutting and then sanding it down. It's always better to leave a little more than make the bezel too small. I filed down the inside corner of the top side because the bottom of the pocket is rounded, but the top side of the pocket is squared, so I used a file to square off the inside corners. And using 2 pieces of stainless steel mesh, I plastic welded the mesh onto the back of the plastic to reinforce it so it doesn't crack later. After the mesh was attached, I used some ABS plastic rods to reinforce the entire inside of the bezel. And then I used the plastic welder and ran it across the face of the bezel and added some material to smooth out that seam that you see on the bezel. After the front was plastic welded and seamed back together, I sanded down the entire piece. Once it was sanded smooth, I primed it with plastic primer and then painted it with 2 coats of matte black paint. And on the cubby side, I drilled 2 holes in the bottom of the cubby, just big enough to pass the USB-C wire end through the hole. Now the finishing up of the cubby, I didn't get the chance to record it, but what I did was I took the painted bezel and I plastic welded the painted bezel to the inside edge of the cubby, and then I used two 1-inch pieces of stainless steel strapping, which I bent out at about 1.25 inches, and I made them 2.25 inches long, something like that, to grab both the front and the back pockets. A lot of this I just did by eye. There's not really any way to measure it, so you're just gonna have to use your old OnStar module to help you make the brackets and figure out how the bezel has to line up. Now for mounting the charge pucks, I wasn't really able to record this part as I needed my phone, which I was using to record the video, to center the charge pucks, but I stuck the MagSafe puck to the back of my phone and then put some double-sided tape on the other side of the MagSafe puck and slid my phone into the pocket to then set the MagSafe puck on the bottom side of the pocket. For the wiring, you're going to want to pop the fuse panel cover off of the left side of the dashboard. There's two clips on the top, one on the bottom. And then I went on the SEO accessory fuse because I didn't want any sort of parasitic draw. And it's a 10 amp fuse, which is more than enough for this application. You can choose whether or not you want it on accessory or constant. You're just going to have to choose another fuse in there. So to make the 12 volt socket, I cut the alligator clips off of the Noco 12 volt female socket that I bought. I crimped a butt connector on the positive and a terminal grounding ring on the negative. Then I ran a wire to fish the socket up through the underside of the steering column, and I attached the grounding ring to the structure inside the dashboard. Realistically, you can run the grounding ring wherever you want. The spot I picked I wouldn't do again because it was very difficult to get the ratchet in there. But anything that's metal or the body of the truck, as long as the ring sits on there good, is perfectly fine. I don't have pictures of the next part, but I created a bridge wire to connect the positive on the female cigarette lighter to the positive at the fuse tap, and I zip tied it to the inside of the structure. Now for the actual charging source, I used a Scosche 60 watt USB-C power delivery, which offers 30 watts per USB-C port. It had two on there. The MagSafe chargers only use up to a maximum of 15 watts. So as long as you have 15 watts split between both, you're good. But I decided to go bigger anyways in case they come out with faster MagSafe charging in the future. Then you just do the reverse order of taking everything apart and put the truck back together. I'm super happy with how this came out. It looks better than I thought it would. Like, it looks OEM. And it works for my use cases. Now, you don't have to do exactly what I did here. This is just me putting out what I did to maybe give some people some inspiration. They do sell existing cubbies on Etsy. The reason why I didn't go with either of those cubbies is one of them is removable, which I like, but my original intention was to put the USB-C chargers below the cubby and keep them concealed. That ended up causing some heat issues, and I wanted the MagSafe inside the cubby so the phone doesn't fall out. And then the other cubby wasn't deep enough. It was only 3 inches deep because it's more made for like sunglasses, I guess. And I wanted to be able to fit the majority of the phone in there. Now, it's also not wide enough to fit two phones. For me, it's fine. I just put my phone in one, my AirPods on the other. However, you could put just one MagSafe in the middle if you have a bigger phone. Some ways that I would make this easier if I had to do it again, I think I would honestly just cut my existing OnStar module. Instead of trying to make the brackets and everything, I would have just gutted the OnStar module and then cut the aluminum out of the inside of the box. I wanted to leave my OnStar module intact in case I ever decide to reinstall it for some reason. I doubt I will, but anyways, that's what I did. That's my OnStar delete cubby to then put into MagSafe chargers. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna try and continue to make videos with this new truck. I don't have the Escalade anymore. I do have a lot of videos recorded. However, I never got the chance to edit any of them, like the making of the center console and interior lighting and a whole bunch of other stuff. If I ever get around to doing it, I'll do it. But thanks again for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.